Let's return to the United States, not the bad weather, but of course the publication of that new book, which contains explosive allegations about Donald Trump's presidency. Well, we can speak to Andre Walker, a founding member of Breitbart UK, now a columnist for the New York Observer. Andre, you worked with Steve Bannon at Breitbart. Of course, Steve Bannon, after he lost his position at the White House, went back as head of news at Breitbart. What do you think is happening here? Donald Trump is downplaying the importance of Steve Bannon's role in the campaign. He did join after the president was in a winning position, didn't he? Yeah,
it's funny actually, because I think there's two elements to this. On the one hand, Steve Bannon is very, very tuned in with the voters that support Donald Trump. But on the other hand, what people very often forget is that he initially supported Senator Ted Cruz in the primary. Now, if you take the view that I do, that Hillary was a comparatively weak candidate, by the time Trump got the nomination, whoever got the nomination was probably going to win the presidential election against Hillary. And that is the context at which Bannon arrives. But on the other hand, look, he was chief strategist. As far as I understand, Trump had wanted him to be the chief of staff, but the Republican establishment weren't keen, so Reince Priebus came in instead. So he is clearly somebody who's extremely significant, and somebody, it has to be said, who was dogged by allegations of leaking when he was at the White House, something he always denied.
What's happening with his support now? Of course, he's got the Breitbart News site. He has a massive possibility to speak against Trump. And since this revelations in this book have been suggested, he has gone supportive again of Trump. What's going on here? Yes, well, the former White House press secretary, Sean Spicer, he said what we didn't hear from Bannon was a denial that he said all these things. And there was other members of staff at Breitbart who were saying that it might have been taken out of context. I think the truth of the matter is, and this is just a hunch, that they've spent so long together, Wolf and Bannon, that actually Bannon is not sure what allegations are going to be put forward. So I think that they are waiting for the book, just as we are waiting for the book, to see the exact context of those allegations. So it's not that Steve Bannon is scared about the fact that he's got now this enormous enemy in the shape of the President of the United States. And let's face it, he's losing funding because Rebecca Mercer, the biggest investor in Breitbart, is suggesting that she's pulling out, withdrawing funding there. Well, we've heard that he spends a huge amount of time with Wolf. We've also heard that some people have suggested that Wolf has a tendency to exaggerate. But either way, clearly there was unprecedented access, far more access than the White House would normally give. And therefore, Wolf has got to have something, hasn't he? It only stands to reason. Yeah, and this statement by Rebecca Mercer is pretty extraordinary because remember, her father, Robert Mercer, distanced himself literally just a few weeks ago. He sold the shareholding in Breitbart to Rebecca and publicly didn't attack Bannon, but distanced himself a little bit. Rebecca Mercer says she's not spoken to Bannon in months, and there are some talks about him being removed from Breitbart. Clearly, it's not something that I have any inside knowledge on anymore because I haven't worked for the company for some time. But obviously, it's hard to see how you can be in this situation when the biggest supporters of Donald Trump, their Leviathan news service, is run by somebody who has now got such a poor relationship with the president, has been denounced, I mean, harder than anybody else. I think not even Kim Jong-un was attacked as badly as Donald Trump attacked Steve Bannon. What happens to the voters then? Who has the hearts and minds of the voters, the supporters of Trump? Is it Steve Bannon and his policies, or are they Trump people? Is it the man that they support? Yeah, well, I think you've got to look at it this way. I think re-election, it is important that base of Trump supporters stay together. Clearly, this has gone some way to fracturing it. We don't know to what extent it's going to fracture, and we don't know if that fracture will still exist at re-election time. But there's no way you could say that this is helpful. Clearly, it is going to be a problem, and it is going to be difficult. But equally, of course, what does this do to the readership of Breitbart? Are the Trump supporters going to stop listening to Steve Bannon's show and reading his articles? So I think the problem cuts both ways. Interesting to see what happens next. Andre Walker, who used to work for Breitbart, knows Steve Bannon. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Thank you.